So here we are in our sample group, the same one we built out in our fundamentals. So let's kind of go through each one of these plan groups and kind of introduce those pre-meeting workflow steps, really focus on organizing the groups, introducing the idea of plan group notes, and just talking through how we prepare and organize these groups for the presentation. So we talked about that idea of getting current and renewal in, which we have built out, and the idea of determining what plans we need built out to guide that conversation. Now, we had a very limited scope renewal sample as part of our training exercise, but it's really not about the quantity of the plan groups that we have. It's really about the process and how we organize those. So in this case, we've got an alternate premium share group that we created by copying the renewal and configuring a different premium share. That would be an example of creating plan groups that are based on different variations of plans we already have entered. And then we have built out the proposed alternate 4000 HSA base plan. In this plan group, we're introducing the idea of a new base plan, the $4,000 deductible HSA, and pairing it with the buy-up. That's really key, again, is remembering that plan groups are scenarios of plans that would be entered or offered to the employees. So we want to make sure we have the plans paired up the way we would deliver those in terms of the offering to our employees. Now, the key is that we talk about premium share in our proposed options. And as you'll recall in our fundamentals, this group actually has a budget target. So that's what determined what premium share we used when we built out our proposed alternate base plan. We solved that to budget so that each of these plan designs would align with our budget target. So now it's time to determine if there's any additional scenarios that we want. And as discussed in the fundamentals, we talked about the idea of we need to build out plan groups to start conversations that we want to have with the employer. And the key is we just have to build them out to start the discussion because we'll always be able to make those real-time changes. Well, one of the things we talked about was the idea of introducing employer funding of the HSA. So again, an example of a proposed option, a discussion we want to have that's a variation off of plans that are already built out in the dashboard. So again, I'm going to focus on copying the plan group as a big shortcut that we use. And when we copy that plan group, we now are going to get the exact copy that we can create a different scenario while still leaving the original one in place. As we build out these alternates and make copies of groups, we want to get used to naming them right away. So our plan group name should really set up an expectation of what's going to be revealed when we open that plan group. So in this case, we're going to call this 4000 HSA base with employer funding. All right, again, setting up an expectation on what we'll be focusing on in this plan group. Now, the key is we want to introduce the employer to getting used to how they can use some of their dollars to actually put dollars and fund this HSA of the employee. So I'm going to click on funding, and actually, we want to do it in our 4000 group. So you notice that it wouldn't give me an HSA option on the buy-up plan because it wasn't a qualified HDHP. So now that I'm in the right plan, we're going to go into our 4000 HSA. I'm going to put in $500 for a single, $1,000 for families. And the key is we don't have to get this right. We just need enough to start the discussion. We can always explore different HSA funding when we're at the meeting with the employer. Come back to my plan design. We've added the HSA. We see the impact in terms of reducing the employee's out-of-pocket exposure. And now we've added cost to our plan group because we've added that HSA contribution. So in our case, since we're working from a budget perspective, I'm going to go into premium share and I'm going to solve that plan design to budget. Okay, when I come back, now we can see where that contribution needs to be, and we have this new version of the HSA plan that includes the HSA funding with contributions adjusted to keep it in line with our budget. All right, now the other sample that we looked at was what if we want to introduce the idea of using an HRA to offset the higher deductible. So again, I'm going to make a copy of that group, I'm going to change the name right away, and we're going to call that 4000 HSA base with HRA. So kind of drawing on that fundamentals case that we worked on, we're going to go ahead, click on funding, go to our deductible HRA, and start off by showing it what it would look like if we used an HRA to really create a $3,000 deductible for the employee. We're going to reimburse 100% between $3,000 and $4,000 of the deductible, and we're going to set our budgeted utilization at 40%. All right, so once we've got that entered in, we come back to our plan design. Again, we can see the funding on the coverage diagram. We're seeing the added impact of the HRA benefit in terms of reducing their overall out-of-pocket exposure. And again, we've added cost to that plan design because that budgeted utilization is added. Since we're working with our budget, I'm going to solve that plan design to budget. And now I've got another scenario using that same 4000 HSA plan. So hopefully that really reinforces that idea of being able to create additional variations of plans that are already entered based on different contribution strategies, funding arrangements, or budget assumptions. So now that we have all our plan groups built out that we feel that we're going to need for the presentation, we can decide which of them we're going to actually use and which order we want to arrange them in. So for instance, we have this alternate premium share plan group here, but maybe we think that the employer is not going to take the same renewal plans they have because they've really indicated they want to get an HSA option. So that might be an indication where I want to hide this group, and we can always surface it if we decide they want to maintain their renewal plans. So under plan group options, I can choose to hide that group and it disappears from the dashboard. So just like if we were in a presentation and we decided we wanted to eliminate an option for consideration, that idea of being able to hide that plan group, remove it from the dashboard, we haven't deleted it, we just keep it from being visible. All right, now when we want to bring back groups we've hidden, or we want to arrange the order of our groups, we're going to come in here and go to under plan groups and reports and choose show, hide, sort plan groups. So here we can see the group we decided to hide, alternate premium share, and I could bring that back just by checking visible. And when I save, that's going to be visible in the dashboard again. Now on my proposed options, I can arrange in whatever order I want just by dragging them up and down. So in our case, if we think of how we want to have the conversation, we want to walk them through current, we want to walk them through the renewal with their same contribution strategy. We want to introduce the idea of a budget with their renewal plans. And then we want to start with just the plain HSA plan, then have the HSA with funding, then introduce the conversation around HRA. So now that we've arranged those in the order that we want to walk through them with the employer, when I click save, our dashboard updates. All right, so now that we have our plan groups built out that we need and arranged, in the next tutorial, we're going to drill into each one of the groups and talk about how we can customize it further using notes.